As I drive around town in my truck, I typically listen to our local top 40 radio station called Sun 102.3. I do this for a couple of reasons. Number one, typically I don't mind the songs too much, but more importantly, I just can't be that old guy yet who doesn't know who's popular and what's on the radio. I want to stay in touch a little bit, so I listen to Sun 102 as I drive around town. Yesterday on the way back to work, I got a surprise though. On this top 40 radio station, someone decided to play Return to Sender by Elvis Presley. Now, to be clear, I'm not that old. Elvis isn't my generation, but Elvis was my parents' generation. My mom and dad listened to a lot of Elvis, and so we grew up listening to Elvis Presley, and we grew up listening to all those 50s and 60s car songs in particular, doo-wop-y kind of stuff, and I really like it. I like that stuff. And beyond that, as I listened to Return to Sender, I realized that while it's a very, very simple song in terms of lyrics, it's very well produced. It was done in a really interesting way. In fact, as I drove, Elvis is singing lead out of one speaker while his backup group, the Jordanaires, are singing really cool harmonies out of the other one. Over here, once in a while, I'd hear a trombone or a saxophone or something, and there's a cool bass line that played over in this end, and it was just really interesting. As I drove along, I noticed I was smiling as I sang along with this song. And that made me think. You see, earlier in the day, I'd been dealing with a bunch of interpersonal things. Not necessarily even dealing with me, but I'm on different boards and I deal with lots of people lots of times. And often my job is to help people who aren't getting along to learn to get along. And that was most of my day yesterday. I was trying to make some bridges between some people, and it wasn't a lot of fun. And yet I came back with this big smile on my face after lunch because I heard a 2.5-minute song that made me smile. And it reminded me, I have a choice every single day. I have a choice whether I want to think about the bad things in it, or I can look for something that makes me happy. I can look for the little surprises every single day that make me feel good. Because here's the thing. Most of your days aren't going to be that spectacular. We kind of talk about big trips we take, and we talk about big purchases, and we dream about vacations and all these sorts of things, but most of your days are just pretty ordinary. And if you don't make a point of looking for something good and rejoicing in that, then you're going to miss the blessing of what's around. Old-time preacher Charles Spurgeon once said, "It's not how much you have, but how much you enjoy that makes you happy." Think about that. It's not how much you have, but how much you enjoy that makes you happy. I know lots of people who have lots of stuff and who are miserable. It's not what you have, but what you enjoy. So look for something that you enjoy, because that's where your life is going to be formed. Jesus said in Luke chapter 12, verse 15, he reminded us that a man's life does not exist in the abundance of his possessions. That's not where you find your life, not in what you have, but in what you enjoy. Or, as 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6 says from the Living Bible, it says, "Do you want to be truly rich? You already are if you're happy and good." After all, we didn't bring any money with us when we came into the world, and we can't carry away a single penny when we die. So we should be well satisfied without money if we have enough food and enough clothing. Now, I know what it is to struggle. I've been in places where I really haven't had enough at times, and that's no fun. And so I'm not saying you should just ignore that and just be happy. But once your basics are covered, once you're kind of in a safe place and everything's okay, you get to choose. You get to choose for the things that make you smile every day. You get to look for the little surprises that come along. You get to dwell on those things if you want to. May I encourage you today, find something that makes you smile.